Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing. So tells us Isaac Watts in that iconic Joy to the World, that beloved Christmas classic that turns 300 years old this year. Composer Isaac Watts does an interpretation of Psalm 98, where he invites us to sing not the same old tired song. Rather, he invites us to sing a new song that is part of that powerful cosmic performance of all creation, and that includes us, being renewed and freed. Has anyone gone to see the Christmas Carol at the Guthrie? I think it's still playing. Yes, I think it's still playing. If not, I need y'all to see the Christmas Carol this year. And I need y'all to pay attention to that first spirit that comes. Actually, it wasn't even the first spirit. It was Scrooge's partner, right? What's his name? Thank you. Yes. And this was the first time where I noticed when that spirit came back, the amount of chains and the physical weight that actor moved about the stage. And I had one of those, the life and the breath was sucked out of me, because I thought, oh, this is how it feels to be chained down by grief or remorse or shame, or you get to fill in the blank, just that heavy feeling that wears us down. And yet into this Advent season, we're singing about a hopeful joy, this God that comes to free us to all those things that are keeping us weighed down. And the choir with our guest conductor Emma and Jay and the musicians, you all just brought it to life so beautifully. Thank you. About us singing a new song to the Lord, about lifting our hearts with those gratitude, to feel what it's like to have those chains removed, to sing a new song and lifting our hearts with gratitude and joy and hopeful joy. Your steadfast love and faithfulness is ever present in our lives. Your steadfast love and faithfulness is ever present in our lives with joy, hopeful joy. So this season, we're embarking on a journey. We're embarking on this journey that will unfold before us as we engage intentionally this spiritual practice of dipping into joy. And I know for me, it's taken me a while to wrap my brain and my heart around this invitation, because it's so subversive in this season of Advent. This season of Advent that's filled with anticipation, of actively waiting and preparing for this birth that changes everything. We know how this story ends, right? We know about the stable, we know about Mary and Joseph and the angels, and we know about this Jesus who comes and becomes this cosmic Christ that changes everything, that tilts this world towards God's dream, where there would be freedom and liberation for not just us, but for all people. So as you go about your journey, I invite you to think about that visual that Ellen so beautifully described and shared with us, right? Joy is when our heart is smiling. Happiness might be just when our face is smiling, but joy is a lot deeper. And Desmond Tutu, he puts it this way: as we discover more joy, we can face suffering in a way that ennobles rather than embitters. We can have hardships without becoming hard. We can have heartbreak without being broken. Joy, according to social scientist Dr. Brene Brown, and if that's not under your Christmas tree, you need to get that one out there, yes, tells us that joy is the most vulnerable emotion, because it opens us up to possibility and potentiality. And so when we have those moments of pure joy, we almost immediately begin catastrophizing and thinking, oh, this isn't going to last. This isn't going to last. I can't really trust this, because it opens us in such a way to God's love and hope and goodness. It's something that we have to be intentional about practicing together. So that's what we're doing this Advent season. We're trying on joy and her different faces. Today it's hopeful joy. Come back the next 3 weeks, actually the next 5 weeks, to try on those different faces of joy. And here's the thing, as you already know, joy is always around. Joy is with us, and we can always find it even when things are really hard and they're not so great. That's what makes it different from happiness. Because these things in our world we know aren't going that great, and yet it is subversive and it's countercultural and it's life-giving and it's the Christian people we're called to be, to still be in that hopeful joy that's here with us. Hope is the thing that can surprise us. Hope is that thing that's just beyond the horizon that we see lingering and we might catch glimpses of. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to surprise us because it allows us to look differently. It allows us to interact with folks who might think differently than we do so that we can connect more deeply and we can be surprised, as Ellen so eloquently named, shifting our perspective so that we can reconnect to joy and reconnect to the love that God has for us. So in this season, as we go deeper into Advent, we're being invited to hold the both and. Yes, there are times, and you may be in one of those times where you're struggling, where you're grieving, where you're having a hard time making ends meet, where you're wondering what in the world all this joy is about. And yet we're also being asked to hold that possibility of joy, like did you notice the gorgeous wreath? So did you notice the center of it? The use of wreath, as you know, goes back to the ancient Romans, when wreaths were hung on the doors or worn on the head or given to Olympic athletes. Ancient Greek. It was a sign of victory and status. Yet today we utilize it as a celebration of that circular unity, as an adornment of joy and life and color in the midst of our winter. And we remember Jesus' true victory. Jesus' true victory is when all people and all creation, no matter their stature we give them, are lifted up and celebrated as gifts of the Creator, when all things are invited and all voices are allowed to sing and to break free, to experience that liberation that hopeful joy brings. So this morning, let us be a people who continue to prepare this Christ child, this cosmic Christ room in our lives so that we can experience hopeful joy. We ask, oh God, that would it be so in and through us. Amen.